straight weights, I heard you mention that a few times, and then, here are just the different viscosities. So can you break that down for the fighter pilot here that wants to keep it simple?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. This goes back to history. The straight grades are all that existed in the early days of aviation. Multigrades had not been invented yet. That polymer technology that creates viscosity modifiers, which lets us make an oil that acts as two different grades depending on the temperature, right? The 20W and the 50. So the low temperature properties and the high temperature properties. In the early days, you didn't have that. All you had was the straight grade. But the numbering convention comes from the use of a different scale to measure viscosity. So all you have to do is divide by 2. So the 120 AD for the radials, right, behind us, divide by 2, it's an SAE 60, right, or the 25W 60. So multigrades came into play. Phillips 66 invented the category for aviation in 1979 with the original XC formulation. The advantages of that are that it lets you have quicker flow at startup, right? So you get less resistance when you're cranking and faster flow to the farthest reaches of the engine. We all know that most wear occurs at startup, so there's less wear on the starter motor and less wear throughout the engine because the oil flows faster to get where it needs to be, so the engine warms up a little bit quicker. I know we got a nice warm day here today in Northeast Pennsylvania. A lot of the country has very high temperatures throughout the summer, but technically to your engine, every start is a cold start. So even if it's 100 degrees, you're in South Texas or you're in the desert Southwest or South Florida, or it's always hot and steamy, we think in our minds that, it's warm, but it really isn't, because the engine normal operating temperature is significantly higher than the ambient air temperature. And so it is still a cold start for the engine, and those fast flow properties are the hallmark of the multiviscosity oils.
Why would you stick with one versus the other if you had the choice?
It's a good question. And again, it comes back to personal preference. So the original oils work very well, right? You're going to do no harm by using them. But because of the way that they're made and because they truly are heavier at startup, they do have some unfortunate downsides. They have a higher tendency to create varnish over time. They have a higher tendency to create deposits over time because they use more bright stock, which is a specific type of base oil that is very high in viscosity, but it has these unfortunate side effects. The truth is you can go back and forth. If you want to use straight grade, and then on the next oil change you want to use multi-grade, and the next oil change you want to go back to straight grade, God bless you. Change every other time. It doesn't hurt anything. Just as I said that design is destiny with the brands, they're all compatible by definition, by the FAA requirements. So too, you can switch back and forth between straight grade and multi-grade. So for those who, there's a psychological barrier for some that the engine is 1940s technology, right? The original designs. And so they feel like they want to stick with the oil that existed in that day. And there's a logic to that, but something better didn't exist then, it does now. The advantages that I described earlier of what a multi-grade truly brings to the engine, it's a simple set of advantages, but you can use either, whichever your preference is. Again, we don't really discriminate. We just hope that you buy Phillips 66 as your brand, but all are available to you.